Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here. We are tracking a ongoing severe weather event across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana today. We already have a few severe storms out there right now, and we do have some ongoing tornado warnings across portions of Oklahoma, especially this one, including Durant, Kemp, down there towards Colbert, Oklahoma. And I am sure that many more will be coming in over the next couple of hours today. We do have a very volatile setup. We already have a tornado watch that has been issued, and a pretty high chance for tornadoes and the potential for significant tornadoes as well. So we have an ongoing tornado warning right now across portions of Oklahoma. This includes Colbert and Durant. This is for a severe storm that has moved out of Texas and now into Oklahoma, which now has a tornado warning on this particular system. If we look at the velocity product, we can see that, again, not a lot of rotation associated with the storm, but there is some meso indicator on radar here. So definitely some broad circulation. Of course, the radar, we're looking down from Dallas, so it is going to be a little bit of a messy signature at this particular point. But we also have a few additional severe thunderstorm warnings across portions of Oklahoma and Texas. This back here is actually the main line of storms that will be moving eastward today, and any cells that develop out in front of this main line have the potential of producing a significant tornado or two out across this region, which is the main thing that we're watching. So again, tornado warning for portions of Durant, Oklahoma through Colbert, and portions of Kemp as well. And these will be moving off towards kind of the northeast over the next couple of hours. So this is kind of embedded within an overall line of storms at this particular point. But besides that, we also have ongoing severe weather with this main line of storms. You can kind of see this broken band of storms on the radar here and on the satellite. And that is what we're going to be watching. That's our cold front sliding eastward, potential for some significant hail with some of these storms coming out here towards Onley, over towards Woodson and Throckmorton as well. So I definitely agree with you, Caleb. I definitely think it's definitely a mess of storms right now. But I do think that, honestly, any of these cells that develop ahead of the line are going to be very problematic. And even later this evening as well, I think things could get pretty problematic with KLCS tornadoes as well. There's a new tornado warning. This is an extension of that Oklahoma tornado warning. This includes Durant up towards Caddo, Caney, and Bennington as well, up there closer towards Gatto. Some of these areas are included in that tornado warning as well. So this is east of I-35 over here. We look at the velocity product. We notice that, again, the signature is very messy. It's a very noisy signature. Even going back as far as a few hours ago, that signature is pretty messy, but there's a broad circulation. And I think the Weather Service here has made the right decision to go ahead and issue a tornado warning on that particular cell. But not really seeing much in the velocity product. Again, this is at a pretty high elevation at this particular point, so you're not really going to get the best resolution from that radar. But what we can do is try switching to the TLX radar out of Oklahoma City. And you can kind of see that these cloud tops here, definitely a good anvil. So here's a better look at the velocity product coming off of the TLX radar. There's definitely some circulation in here, albeit pretty broad. So I'm not really seeing a huge signature for a tornado, but there still could be a tornado in here. And we can go ahead and actually look at where this storm might end up going over the next couple of hours here. So this is going to be something to monitor here over the next couple of hours. Again, this cell is kind of heading off towards the north and east here. So you can kind of see this is moving 46 miles per hour according to the radar here. And so this will be near Cata within just about 22 minutes. Durant here within just about 6.5 minutes. And then looking out further in time, we're nearing the end of this polygon. But about 42 minutes to the end of this polygon right here. So we definitely could be looking at a tornado. It's going to be a little bit hard to kind of determine exactly where this might end up being. But it is something to monitor at least for now, but not really a huge threat. Again, kind of you're looking right about there for the potential of that as well. So you're kind of looking right there for the potential of that to happen. So right in there, that's where your tornado could be. Again, it's kind of moving off towards the north and east, something like that. So this is going to be something to monitor as we progress over the next couple of hours. That is for sure. Give me 1 second to reset this here, and we'll be good to go. Alrighty. So again, we do have a few ongoing severe storms across portions of Texas and Oklahoma today. Again, we do have a couple of new severe thunderstorm warnings right now. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning down here across portions of Texas. This actually includes Dallas-Fort Worth as well. So we'll take a look here at the radar that is actually right over top of this. You can actually see it's got a little bit of that supercell structure to it right now. And so this actually could be something to kind of monitor. You can kind of see that almost that supercell structure flying eagle type look right there with these storms sitting right about here. That would kind of be where any potential wall cloud would be at that particular point. So that is going to be something to monitor as we go forth in time. If we actually look at the velocity, not really seeing anything substantial at this particular point. Not a lot of circulation here. So that is certainly some good news at this particular moment in time. But this is going to be something that's going to be also heading off towards kind of the north and east like this over the next couple of hours. And so if we kind of look at where the storm might end up going as it moves off towards kind of the north and east, and this is going to be something to monitor pretty closely. Some of these cells looking off towards kind of the northeast like this. And so this is going to be something that we'll be monitoring again. Kind of the core of this storm right now is going to be generally right around in here, and it's moving off towards the northeast like that. So that's going to be something to monitor for Dallas, Fort Worth, some of these areas. Benford over here again, moving northeast at about 35 miles per hour. So this be on the northwestern side of the Dallas suburbs, actually pretty close to the radar site there, the terminal Doppler radar. So Arlington, about 19 minutes from now. Fort Worth getting impacted right now over towards Grapevine, moving towards the northeast, towards Lewiston, and this might be a tornadic cell within the next couple of hours. Not really anything to monitor rotation-wise for right now, but we could be seeing that increase as we head throughout the rest of today. Of course, that shear is also increasing, so something to monitor for sure. And then we have a few other supercells out here, kind of these linear storms moving off towards kind of the east and northeast with time. So that will be something to monitor as we progress over the next couple of hours. This mainly will be for damaging winds and large hail, not so much a tornado threat, but you could still see some QLCS tornadoes embedded within this line of storms as well. Of course, the one tornado warning we are working right now is this potential system right near TLX as well. So it'll be something to monitor. So looking at the TLX radar, you can actually see that we do have a few ongoing cells right now. Again, this main one near Durant, this is going to be something to monitor as we progress throughout the rest of the day, because this will be moving off towards the north and east, producing the threat for a tornado or two. And if we actually look at the velocity product, again, you can kind of see where that circulation might actually be at this particular point. This is going to be right near Durant. And again, it's not a very strong circulation at this particular point. You can kind of see the radar not really showing a strong signature for a circulation, but it definitely could still be there. Kind of almost looks like maybe two circulations, one on the northern and kind of the northwestern end of that polygon, and one towards the southern end. So that will be something to monitor as well. Now, again, the environment off towards the north is a little bit less favorable for tornadoes today, which is why the tornado threat does decrease the further north you get. But definitely could be seeing a few tornadoes, especially towards Oklahoma City, down here in the open warm sector. But that's something that we're going to have to monitor very closely. So still, this is one thing that I'm not particularly concerned about. We can see if we actually have any drops in the correlation coefficient, and we don't. Again, it's still very noisy, but this still could be a potential tornado. Not really something I'm super concerned about, but of course these things can spin up very quickly, and the environment out here is certainly more than favorable for a tornado to form. But again, we're also watching several other cells back to the south of this one. One's closer down towards Dallas, Fort Worth, that could be capable of moving into this environment and producing a tornado or two. Again, we have a tornado watch that's in effect from just about Fayetteville, Arkansas, Fort Smith, Springdale, all the way southward towards about Waco, Texas, just to the north of Austin, and into portions of Arkansas as well. So that's going to be something to monitor, and I wouldn't be surprised, of course, to see this extended eastward as the remainder of the day progresses. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Good afternoon, everyone. We continue to monitor the threat for severe weather today across portions of the traditional tornado alley today. We already do have one tornado warning. This is the first tornado warning of the afternoon. This includes portions of Durant, Oklahoma, Caddo, Oklahoma, and up through Caney, Oklahoma towards Boswell. Again, this is east of Interstate 35, kind of close to the Red River. At this particular point, we have a tornadic supercell right now that is moving off towards the northeast and will be impacting some of these areas over the next couple of minutes. We do have the potential for a tornado, not a very tight circulation, but nonetheless, there is a circulation here. Very messy at this particular point, and this will be moving off towards the north and east. But not really seeing anything. There's nothing showing up in the CC fields at all, indicating any debris. So this is the correlation coefficient. You typically want to see these blue colors. You can see these blue colors right here. That would indicate if this was co-located with the circulation. That would indicate a tornado on the ground lofting debris. But this is kind of a very noisy signature and not really associated with any tornadic debris at this particular point. So not really seeing the threat for a confirmed tornado at this particular point, but we still are pretty high up. Again, the radar site is out of TLX, Oklahoma City right now, so we're looking pretty high up at this particular point. But nonetheless, this is still the potential for a tornado closing in on the Bocacho community. I honestly don't know how to pronounce that, but this will be moving off towards the north and east, and again could drop a tornado, so we'd have a tornado warning in effect there. And further south, we have a few other storms firing. Nothing really going on in the warm sector at this particular point, other than this tornado warning. We have one severe thunderstorm warning down there towards Dallas-Fort Worth. And along the squall line, which if you actually kind of take a look here, so the squall line that is forming is this line of storms right here. That's moving off towards the east like that. And so this will be undercutting a lot of this warm advection stuff over the next couple of hours. So this will be kind of rapidly advecting eastward. So this actually might put a damper on the supercell tornado threat for today. So that's going to be one of the things that, of course, forecasters and, of course, I will be watching to see how the squall line forms and progresses over the next couple of hours, because that might temporarily limit the tornado threat for today. But that is not a guarantee at this particular point. So that's obviously some good news if that does happen, but definitely the threat for strong tornadoes does exist today, and we'll kind of take a look at some of that model data over the next couple of hours. Again, watching a storm near Dallas-Fort Worth at this particular moment. We'll switch radars to the Dallas-Fort Worth radar, and we notice again a strong storm right now, severe storm in fact, producing hail and damaging winds, and that might be the sign of a circulation trying to develop there on the back end. We'll see if that is the case. So we'll go ahead and look at the velocity product coming off of the radar. And I'm not really seeing anything at this particular point that would indicate to me a circulation. So not really seeing much in the way of a circulation at this point. No significant gate-to-gate shear at all. So this probably is not supercellular in nature, but we can go up to the higher tilts and just see, yeah, no, we're not seeing any circulation there, so that's certainly some good news. Nothing at the higher tilts that would indicate a significant tornado threat at this particular point. But irregardless, the storm is moving off towards the north and east and will be impacting the northwestern part of the Dallas suburb over towards Interstate 35E, Interstate 20 over the next couple of hours as this races off towards the north and east. So again, the main threats here with this particular cell for the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is definitely going to be some high wind and hail, but no significant tornado threat at this particular point out of this supercell. We're also watching a storm developing down towards the south. This is closer towards Waco, Texas. And any of these cells that manage to stay on their own today, you can kind of see what we're looking at. Any of these cells that manage to stay on their own today definitely have the threat for producing a strong to maybe even violent tornado. So that's going to be something to kind of monitor as we progress through the next several hours. Of course, tornado watch in effect for that area, Valley Mills, maybe some developing hail core with that. Let's look at the velocity product. Nothing coming out of the velocity, so there might actually be a little signature right there on the back end of that. So yeah, there's a little signature there, potential for some broad circulation, but there's nothing significant at this time that would indicate to me any sort of tornado potential. So be watching that very closely. Again, bouncing back towards our other storms, of course, we have that tornado warning in portions of Oklahoma. And this is going to be where I think we're going to be mainly focusing our time, at least for the next little bit. Again, got a storm right now that could be producing a brief tornado. Certainly no significant rotation at this point. But irregardless, you need to be in your shelters right now. Again, a shelter should be potentially a basement or a storm shelter if possible, but an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building in the center and away from windows. Of course, no mobile homes, no vehicles. That is the preferred, of course. And this goes really for anybody today. If you are in a tornado warning, lowest level in the sturdy building, near the center, away from windows. Do not be driving on the interstate or any road for that matter. No mobile homes. If you live in a mobile home area anywhere within this tornado watch area that extends from Arkansas down towards near Waco, Texas, again, you need to have plans in place to evacuate that mobile home an hour before a storm gets there. And even if you live in Memphis, Tennessee, where there's a slight to marginal risk, you need to think about the same thing, because mobile homes, death trap when it comes to strong winds and tornadoes. Don't care what any home manufacturer says, death trap, 100% guaranteed. And so you need to find a convenience store even that you can go into to seek sturdy shelter shall a tornado warning be issued for your location today. And this goes, for anywhere really at any time. But of course, in your storm shelter, you should have a batting helmet, bicycle helmet, something like that to protect your head in case you are lofted from a tornado. Of course, one of the main research that we have found after April 27, 2011 is that a lot of people who get lofted end up, the fatalities in tornadoes are generally from blunt force trauma to the head. So batting helmet, bicycle helmet, that could save your life dramatically. So that's some important things to remind yourself of today as we progress through what could be a very dangerous day out there. So we're still watching this potential tornadic supercell right now, moving off towards the north and east. This will be crossing close to Boswell within the next couple of minutes here. Again, the potential for a tornado to be associated with the storm, but quite frankly, the velocity signatures are not particularly enthusiastic to me. They're just not all that strong, but you could still end up with a brief rain wrap tornado. That would not surprise me in the least at all. But it does seem like this is probably going to be embedded within a few other storms, because you can kind of see that there's additional cells further to the south that are moving in the same direction that could end up undercutting this cell as we progress throughout the next couple of minutes. So that's going to be a key thing to monitor as we progress over with time. So not really much else to report on that particular storm. Of course, we do have a few other storms developing across portions of Oklahoma. Mainly the storms that are further up towards the north here, across portions of Wichita, Kansas, down through Enid, and to the east of Woodward, Oklahoma. These are so far non-severe at the moment. In fact, most of this line is sub-severe. And for that matter, so is our prefrontal convection as well. But of course, these storms have yet to enter that moderate risk area. These are kind of on the edge of this day one moderate risk from about Little Rock through about Tyler, Texas, to the east of Dallas-Fort Worth. So these will be something to monitor as we progress throughout the rest of today. Of course, the main concern right now is this potentially tornadic cell that does look to be in the process of merging with a few other storms. So this probably is not going to be a significant concern, but it would not surprise me to see this produce a brief tornado or two as we progress throughout the rest of this afternoon. Of course, the environment out here is still more than favorable for supporting supercells and tornadoes. So that's going to be one thing to monitor. So we continue to monitor the threat for severe weather today across portions of kind of your traditional tornado alley. New severe thunderstorm warning, including portions of Dallas, Plano, towards Interstate 30, 63, and 35. This includes Lewiston, Allen, Garland. Actually, Garland was impacted by a tornado, I believe in 2017 it was. Can't remember the exact date. But we are watching the potential for a severe storm right now. We'll actually bounce to the Fort Worth radar. So watching for the potential of a severe storm now near Arlington, Texas. This will be moving off towards the north and east over the next couple of hours. And again, right now, the main threats, damaging winds, large hail. Not a very high tornado potential with this. In fact, there's just not really a lot of indications to me of any tornado potential at all. And I think that is going to remain the case because this is still kind of embedded within a few other line segments. Yeah, not really seeing anything down there at the surface. Maybe a little hint of circulation, but nothing strong at this particular moment. My main interest actually is going to be from these cells that are actually much further towards the south. These cells right here towards Waco, that right now are not really competing with any other cells that are to the north or to the south. And so these cells, as we progress through the next couple of hours, will be moving north and east towards Dallas, Fort Worth, and in the Metroplex there. So we're going to have to monitor this because these, in my honest opinion, have the best potential right now for producing a significant tornado or two over the next hour or two, as this remains in a relatively unimpeded environment. So these will be something to monitor. But of course, right now, Dallas, Fort Worth, potential for an isolated severe storm or two. And of course, right now, this severe storm producing damaging winds, large hail, maybe the threat for an isolated tornado or two out of this cell as well, as it remains a little bit unimpeded and unrestricted. There actually does maybe seem to be a little bit of a circulation trying to build up here towards Grand Prairie, just north of Interstate 30. This is a circulation, I believe, developing right in here towards Irving. And so this is going to be something to monitor because, of course, this is going through a pretty heavily populated area. And you can kind of see almost the semblance here of a hook echo that was trying to develop. But this will be competing with the storm to the south, but could drop a tornado. And, of course, this is in a heavily populated area of Texas. So certainly you need to be on your guard there for the potential of a tornado. The circulation is trying to become a little bit better organized right here. And in fact, there is a little bit of wind shear that is being indicated on our product here. So this does indicate the potential for a spin up. Now, this is not saying a tornado is on the ground, but I would not be surprised to see the Weather Service out of Dallas-Fort Worth issue that tornado warning. You can kind of see that hook echo here developing towards Irving. And so this is going to be one of those things that needs to be monitored very closely. The circulation itself right now in the low levels is not particularly impressive, but you can see up in the upper levels there actually is a broad mesocyclone, and we know that these things can spin up very quickly. You can see right there, that is a mesocyclone that we're picking up on the radar. So this cell right now near Irving has a potential to go on to produce a tornado. This actually, this is up at about the 8-degree tilt. Notice that mesocyclone beginning to be picked up on the radar, and it's trying to work its way down to the surface. So I'm sure NWS is going to be monitoring that one pretty closely. They do indicate, again, the threat for hail, 1 inch in diameter, 60-mile-per-hour winds moving towards the northeast 53 degrees at 51 miles per hour. So that would be something to monitor there as we progress over the next couple of hours and minutes. We do have an extension here. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Boswell. This is actually issued. Do note that a tornado is possible, but hail 0.75, so under that 1 inch threshold, but 60-mile-per-hour winds is possible. These are all radar indicated threats as well. And we are starting to see a mesocyclone indicator being picked up on the storm near the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex at this particular point. Again, not a particularly strong signal, but irregardless, there is at least a little bit of circulation being indicated in the upper levels right here. So that's why we're getting this mesocyclone indicator popping up here. So this is going to be a storm to watch, I do believe, over the next couple of hours. It is relatively unimpeded for now, but could interact with the storm right now to the south of Interstate 30 over the next about 50 minutes or so. So it's going to be something to monitor very closely. And of course, we're watching other storms developing to the south. These so far showing no severe signs, but could over the next couple of hours. And we're watching that cold front. You can kind of see here developing and sliding eastward. This is going to be the main squall line, I do believe, and this is going to be more of a damaging wind and hail threat rather than a tornado risk, but still could end up with a few QLCS tornadoes the further east you end up going with this particular line of storms. So we continue to monitor the tornado warning right now across portions of Oklahoma. Again, this is not a tornado-producing storm, but it does have a warning for a tornado. But not really the best signs of rotation right now. Maybe a little bit better organized than it was in the past couple of hours, but not a high probability for a tornado right now. And at this particular point, the National Weather Service has not decided to extend this tornado warning. So we'll be watching this one pretty closely. Looking at the CC product, not really seeing any correlation coefficient drops that are actually discernible as debris being lofted, so the likelihood of a tornado is definitely just not there at this particular point, but there is still a warning, so you need to take that warning very seriously at this particular moment. And then we continue to watch the storm near Dallas that could go on to become tornado warned as well. So a lot of cells that we're watching today. Again, the main risk, of course, for any strong tornadoes will be across portions of southern Texas and portions of Louisiana and Arkansas as well, where we have that moderate risk in effect for today. So jumping back down to the Dallas-Fort Worth radar at this particular point, you can kind of see that, again, we have a storm right now that was trying to show signs of circulation. It's kind of going through a merger phase at this particular point with a few other cells. But there is some broad circulation there, but the mesocyclone isn't as well defined. There's a little bit there, but it's not as well defined as it was just about 5 minutes ago, which is definitely some good news. But the storm is heading towards University Park, Carrollton, Heber, and Plano, over towards Allen as well over the next couple of minutes. Within about the next 30 minutes or so, we'll be watching for that storm. But again, the main threat right now from this particular cell is going to be damaging winds and large hail. And then we're watching these other cells trying to develop at this particular point. Watching one right now near Valley Mills that does have some circulation and does have a little bit of an associated mesocyclone, but it's not a very deep meso. You can kind of see that it's not a very deep mesocyclone here. So this one is not really a good candidate for tornado-producing cells at this particular point. But otherwise than that, we have a few other storms that we'll be monitoring over the next couple of hours. So I think we're going to jump to a quick pause, and we'll be back in a minute. We are back here after the break. Of course, we're monitoring the potential for a few tornadoes today across portions of Mississippi. Well, not Mississippi, but Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, some of these areas. There is currently only one tornado warning out there right now, and this is for portions of Oklahoma. And this storm is beginning to weaken. The Weather Service has decided and opted not to extend this tornado warning at this particular point, which is certainly some good news. But we're continuing to monitor the threat for a few tornadoes across portions of Texas. I do believe this is probably where we'll have our strongest threat for tornadoes today, where you could see some of those longer track tornadoes as well. But so far, these storms have failed to materialize into anything yet, which is certainly some good news, but it is early in the day over there. So as we progress over the next couple of hours, that will be something to monitor. But we have this right now severe storm kind of near Carrollton. And this is actually almost kind of taking on more of kind of its own supercell characteristics. You can actually kind of see that we have this kind of developing kind of that flying eagle structure on the radar at this particular point. It's kind of broken off from this other cell back here, but we have this one right here that this cell might interact with. And so these could get very messy and not allow for significant tornado potential, at least in the short term. And there's certainly no significant indications on radar of anything showing up, which is certainly some good news at this particular point. So I think this storm, at least as of this minute, will be probably interacting with a bunch of different cells. And so this one could be a candidate eventually for tornadogenesis. But at this particular point, not really seeing a huge threat. We have a severe storm right now near Anchor City and near Wichita Falls. This is actually producing the potential for some significant hail. In fact, if we look at the radar estimated hail size, you're actually getting over 2-inch hail size there. So that is a very significant hail size that we could be seeing as the storm approaches near Wichita Falls. So that is certainly not what we want to have happen. So that's going to be a problem for those areas as well. And we've got these storms right now near Clifton Valley Mills. This particular one, just to the northwest of Waco, Texas, may have to be monitored for a potential tornado threat eventually, but we'll see on that. And in fact, we just did get a new extension of that tornado warning in Oklahoma. So let's go ahead and look at that right now. So this is a new tornado warning for portions of Oklahoma, and this is going to include, basically it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere at this particular point, but this is going to be just to the south and east of Stringtown. So this is kind of along the Red River at this particular point. And again, the circulation, yeah, there you go. So the circulation has become a little bit better defined here. And yeah, just kind of spun up in the last little bit. So that circulation is now becoming better defined, and thus the issuance of that new tornado warning. So I think this one actually could go on to produce a tornado, but it seems to be in a relatively rural area, which is certainly good news there. Looking at the correlation coefficient, there's nothing there, so no tornado confirmed at the moment, but this is kind of embedded within the overall sloppy storm mess up here in Oklahoma, which is kind of to be expected at this particular point. So again, the potential for a tornado right now, this is going to be to the south and east of Stringtown and to the north and east of Caddo, Oklahoma. You can see just some broad circulation, nothing extremely intense, but this definitely could be a candidate for a tornado producing storm over time if this tries to get better organized. So this is kind of along the Red River. It's not really in a heavily populated area, which is certainly some good news at this particular point. So I think with that being said, there should not be any significant damage, hopefully, if a tornado does form in this area. But you can kind of see that this is moving off towards kind of the north-northeast and has been for the last couple of hours, and that circulation has formed kind of on the northwestern side of that original cell. And so we might kind of be dealing with something where we kind of get these brief little spin ups and they just kind of propagate up the line. That is something that is certainly possible, but we'll be monitoring this particular cell over the next couple of hours. All right. Now, turning our attention, though, towards what is to be expected over the next couple of hours, we're going to look here at the mesoanalysis. We're looking here at the surface-based instability across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, in that moderate risk area. You can see the mesoanalysis indicating over about near 3,000 Cape at the surface near Dallas, Texas. But one of the reasons why you're not getting a significant tornado threat so far in Oklahoma, look at the instability. Not really significant instability up there, and even towards Fort Smith, the instability is lower. Waco, Texas, the instability is higher. So you're kind of dealing with that instability axis at this particular point that seems to be favored in this particular area for highest tornado threats. And so I think as you start to get the further north you get, the lower tornado threat there is. And the further south you get, the higher tornado threat there is. I think that's kind of the synopsis of what we're dealing with at this particular moment in time. So I definitely think that there will be the threat for that to expand northward as we progress throughout the rest of today. You can kind of see what we're looking at. That instability has been creeping northward throughout the day today, and that could lead to, again, more severe weather this evening across portions of Texas. So you can kind of see, again, that moderate risk area right now, and our storms are kind of right on the edge of that moderate risk zone at this point. But we do have a tornado watch. This is non-PDS for portions of Arkansas down through Texas and Oklahoma, not any part of Louisiana at this particular point. So again, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. So we continue to monitor the threat for severe weather today. We do have a tornado warning ongoing across portions of Oklahoma right along the Red River at this particular point. So it is in a sparsely populated area, which is definitely good news. There is a little bit of circulation with this particular system, but you notice how broad it actually is. We're not really seeing any significant signs of circulation or in fact a mesocyclone. So I do believe that if this continues, I think the Weather Service is going to end up canceling this tornado warning. We have not had a single report of a tornado with this system. Now, this is along the Red River, So again, the road network is not particularly the best out there, from my understanding. But we have not received any reports of damage or any report from law enforcement or anything like that. So that is certainly good news. Be watching this cell towards Durant at this particular point. This is not really good looking at this moment, but there's at least a little bit of rotation with that. Not a huge mesocyclone, so again, we'll be watching this very closely. Any of these storms today really have the potential to produce a tornado. Really, any of them do, but so far, we haven't really seen any systems that have materialized into that significant tornado threat, but of course, this is still pretty early in the event. And I'm sure that we will have many more warnings to come today. So we're going to take a look at that storm near the Dallas area. If our thing does not close out, we are going to take a look at the storm near the Dallas area at this particular point. This is a storm that could be going on to produce some severe weather. And so you're kind of looking at a disorganized mess of storms right now, not really producing significant severe weather at this particular point. Looking at the velocity product, we can definitely see that it's pretty disorganized. So mainly going to be damaging wind and large hail. And in fact, there is a new severe thunderstorm warning to the north of that as well. Again, this mainly goes damaging winds, large hail, no tornado possible tag. And so this is mainly, again, going to be associated with the potential for hail, nothing really else other than that. Other cells to the south that we're watching, but at this particular point, none of these are showing any significant signs. This one, though, does have my interest. That is a little bit of a circulation trying to develop out here. And this is to the east of Clifton, to the southeast of Whitney, to the north of Valley Mills. And that seems to be a pretty lone cell. So I'm going to be watching that very closely. And in fact, I do believe this might go on to get tornado warned if that keeps up. So maybe places towards Rio Vista and Claiborne and Whitney, Blum, those areas might be affected by the storm. The overall motion is towards the north and east, so also looking at Grandview over the next couple of hours, and then the Interstate 35 corridor over here as well. So this is going to be something to monitor. No tornado warning officially on this, but there definitely is some circulation there. You can kind of see there's definitely a circulation there. And there is a growing mesocyclone with this thing. Unlike the last couple of frames that we were seeing, this actually is growing a mesocyclone. And so this might be a candidate for tornado genesis over the next couple of minutes. Probably within about 30 minutes to an hour, we might see this thing try to spin up a tornado, maybe even sooner than that. Elsewise, across the area, really only one tornado warning. This right now is in Oklahoma. But other than that, we are pretty quiet, with the only other severe thunderstorm warnings being across portions of Texas as well, and one there in Oklahoma. So it's pretty quiet so far, which is certainly some good news, but pretty early in the event. So we'll be watching this very closely. Again, that tornado warning across portions of southern Oklahoma. Looking at the velocity product here, again, not really seeing anything, pretty noisy. So I would suspect that the Weather Service will probably go on to cancel that tornado warning over time. And they'll be watching this other cell near Durant. This is not really super good looking, but that is a little bit of rotation starting to appear on the radar. So if this continues and intensifies, we might see a tornado warning for this area. So it's going to be something to monitor very closely. Again, this is kind of a lone cell as well, but it is embedded within a large rain shield, and it's already moving into that rain-cooled air from these storms to the north, so that might limit the overall intensity of this cell as it begins to move off towards the north and east. So that's going to be something to be monitored very closely as well. So other than that, though, we do note that we have just a few other cells. Of course, that severe storm near Dallas, and then other cells to the south of that. But at this particular point, there is nothing that substantial going on. in terms of the actual tornado threat, at least for right now. We do have a pretty significant hail threat actually right now developing across portions of Wichita Falls. We'll look at the radar out of Frederick, Oklahoma, and we can see that along this line of storms, there is a pretty strong cell right here near Archer City and Wichita Falls that could be going on to produce a pretty substantial hail event. And if we actually take a look here at the relative potential, the mean estimated hail size, we can actually look, and that is going to show just about 2 inches there near towards Scotland, Archer City, and Lakeside City to the south of there. So that's going to be something to monitor. Pretty significant hail. Of course, that can do some very bad damage to sidings and roofs, etc. So not the best of situations there either. I'll be watching a few of these other cells. This one to the south we'll be watching very closely. So So we still have a few ongoing severe storms right now. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning. This encompasses that original tornado warning across portions of Oklahoma. This storm seems to be on the weakening trend over the last couple of frames. That is certainly good news at this particular point in time. Does not really seem to be a huge tornado threat at the moment. We can kind of see that some of the gate-to-gate shear, not really a lot. So this storm is probably going to lose that tornado warning within the next 30 minutes or so. I would not doubt that. And we're watching some other cells right now near portions of Texas. including Dallas. These are non-tornadic so far, kind of congealing into a line of storms so far. But watching a few other cells right now near Whitney, and this one I do believe probably has the best chance for getting a tornado warning on it in the short term. You can kind of see that there actually is some circulation with this particular cell. And so I do believe that this could end up being a good candidate. You can kind of see pretty strong meso up there through about the 1.8 tilt. So even with height, this has good rotation, which means that I do believe that this probably will be getting a tornado warning on it very shortly. So if you live in Whitney, of course, it would be a good idea to go ahead and take your tornado precautions now, because the storm is virtually on top of you. And eventually the storm will be moving towards Covington over the next couple of minutes, and then towards the Interstate 35 corridor as well. So this is going to be a cell that needs to be monitored very closely, of course, because this is an isolated discrete cell, and those type of storms today I do believe have the best potential for producing a significant tornado or two. So this is going to be something to monitor very closely. The rest of the storms, though, in fact, we have a new tornado warning. And so this is the storm that I was talking about just a few minutes ago. This is going to be for a tornadic storm close to the Durant area that we were talking about just a little while ago. So looking at the velocity, you can kind of see that there is some gate-to-gate shear. It's a little bit blocked by the Dallas radar. So we'll look at the Oklahoma City radar here in just a minute. So we do have another tornado warning. This again is for portions of southern Oklahoma. This includes Kemp and some of those areas that were just involved in the original tornado warning across portions of northern Oklahoma. That's the cell right now up there. This storm is likely to weaken. This is the new cell that we're monitoring, and so this does now have a new tornado warning on it. Although admittingly the rotation is not very strong at this particular point, it is definitely there and prevalent. And so this is going to be something to monitor as we progress forward in time. Again, right now, this is not a super high priority system, meaning that this is not a tornado confirmed or anything. Correlation coefficient shows nothing. So this is effectively right now not producing a tornado for all we know. However, the cell is semi-isolated. You can kind of see just the fact that it's kind of semi-isolated, and it has remained that way for the last couple of hours. And so this definitely lends a little bit of credence if it can remain isolated and it can draw in enough moist inflow that this could become tornadic and produce, well, it is tornadic, but this could produce a significant tornado if it's able to draw in that moisture. But again, not really seeing anything in the velocity fields that indicate that this is a significant tornado, at least as of this point. So that's going to be something to monitor very closely as we progress forward in time. Of course, we're also watching a few other storms right now. These are really the only three other severe thunderstorm warnings across portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth area and then the Wichita Falls area for a storm that is producing large hail and damaging wind at this particular point. But as far as the tornado threat goes, again, you can kind of see the outline of this tornado watch area. Again, this mainly goes for portions of Oklahoma. This goes to the Oklahoma-Kansas border all the way down through near Waco, Texas. And again, this will likely be extended eastward as we progress throughout the rest of today. But of course, the main risk for damaging Significant tornadoes will be across portions of southeastern Oklahoma, portions of eastern Texas, across portions of southwestern Arkansas and northwestern Louisiana. I think that's going to be the highest tornado potential for, or at least significant tornado wise, for today. So we're continuing to monitor the progress of these storms. Again, continue to monitor the progress of this northern storm. This one's along kind of the Red River right now. Have not received any damage reports. It's getting very strung out. So this one, at least as of this moment, any tornado would be rain wrapped. So it is imperative to not chase this storm because it is not going to be chaseable. But you can kind of see it's just sitting along the Red River there. And so this is not likely to be producing really anything visible, at least to the public, unless if you're right on top of it. But I've not heard of any damage reports out of this. You'll be watching this. You can kind of almost see it's a little kind of mini supercell in a way. It's kind of just isolated sitting there, but the rotational signature is not particularly the best. Yeah, just not really seeing much at this particular point, but you can definitely see where that tornado warning polygon is at this point. And so this will be something to monitor as we progress over the next couple of minutes into about the next hour for this particular cell. And then we do now have a new tornado warning. This now is on that same storm we were just talking about, the one near Whitney, Texas. So here you go. You have a tornado warning. This is for the Whitney, Texas area up through Interstate 35. This is, in my opinion, the most significant potential right now for a significant tornado. We can see that on the radar, you do have that circulation right near Whitney that is producing that potential tornado. There is nothing right now confirmed. You can see there is definitely some elevated signatures showing up on the higher tilts. Looking at the correlation coefficient, there is nothing here suggesting there is no actual ground circulation at this point. Certainly good news, but go ahead into your tornado precautions, lowest level near the center, away from windows, no mobile homes, no vehicles. Certainly do not be driving on Interstate 35. That is not advised, but you can kind of see that the storm is sitting right now in a relatively sparse populated area, but there are some houses dotted in through here. So if there is any tornado, we'll definitely know about it. But at this particular point, there isn't. So that is certainly some good news. But we can be continuing to monitor the progress of this, because this one, I think, in my opinion, is probably going to be the strongest and the most significant potential for one of those more significant high-end tornado events, because this is on its own. But we're also watching a few storms right now near Ross and Abbott, Texas, over towards to the south. To the north of Waco, Texas. These are also kind of on its own, so we'll be monitoring that to see if these actually do anything over the next couple of hours. That old tornado warning that we were talking about that was near Akota, that tornado warning has now expired. And so right now we are left with that tornado warning near Durant, Oklahoma. But again, the circulation on that was not particularly strong. But we'll go ahead and look at that again. You can kind of see here on the reflectivity. Yeah, there you go. So your velocity products have definitely picked up a little bit of a higher signature, high velocity. So this does indicate the potential for a tornado. And this will be moving off towards the northeast, very close to Bennington over the next couple of minutes. Probably within about the next 20 minutes or so, Bennington could be impacted by this potential system. If this is going to drop a tornado, it would be right in there. So you can kind of see potential tornado right here, moving towards the northeast. Could get very close, maybe potential direct impact to Bennington as this moves towards the north and east. Again, that circulation is definitely there, and so it is going to potentially intensify. We'll have to see. The environment is certainly ripe for that, but that could be definitely a tornado there. We'll look at the correlation coefficient values. Not really seeing anything pop up at this point that would indicate a tornado, which is good news, but that is certainly a storm to monitor over about the next 30 minutes as the storm nears Bennington. Of course, then we're also dealing with this other storm to the south of there right now. This is near Whitney, Texas. And so that's going to be something to monitor as well. So right now we are monitoring the potential for that tornadic producing storm close towards Whitney, Texas at this particular point. And this will be something to monitor. You can see the velocity products, not really a super high chance that there's a significant tornado, but there definitely could be one in here, at least maybe a brief spin up at this particular point. The velocity products are not all that impressive at this point, but there is at least a little bit of shear beginning to be picked up. And so that could be something as the storm passes near the Whitney, Texas area. And then again, of course, we are also watching for that tornadic producing storm. This one is near Durant, Oklahoma, moving towards the northeast, close towards Bennington, Oklahoma, over the next about 30 minutes or so. And so that will be something to monitor very closely. Again, the storm actually near Whitney, Texas, will be undergoing some cell interactions as well. You can kind of see what we're looking at, the potential for these storms to interact. And so this is going to keep the tornado potential, or at least the significant tornado potential, down over time, because these storm interactions, they do temporarily weaken the storms in most cases. They can occasionally have constructive influences to increase tornado potential, but most of these would be destructive influences. So this is something to monitor over time, because again, this could limit that tornado potential today. So right now I got a severe storm near Whitney, capable of producing a tornado, but is not actively producing one. Looking at the correlation coefficient values, nothing there, nothing significant at this particular point, which is certainly some good news there. And then if we jump back up towards Oklahoma, again, we're getting this potential severe storm. This is near Durant at this particular time. And this would be capable of producing a tornado as well. If you look at the velocity products, again, it's kind of all over the place. We did see a little bit of a spin up, and now it's kind of weakened out. So the storm right now is not very well organized. It's not able to sustain itself, which is good news for those folks there. So the storm, again, will be approaching Bennington, Oklahoma, within about the next 20 to 25 minutes on kind of the southern edge of this polygon. That's where you're getting your strongest velocities. But again, this is kind of embedded within an overall rain field at this particular point. So I'm not really seeing a huge tornado threat, at least as of this minute. Again, looking at the correlation coefficient values, nothing there that's being indicated. So that is good news for those folks there. Have a few other severe storms moving out of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and these will be also capable of producing some severe weather. So we continue to monitor the threat for tornadoes today across portions of the south. And in fact, we're watching a new storm now. This is just to the east of Interstate 35, close to Abit and Penelope. At this particular point, this is actually showing signs of a circulation. And so if this continues, I do believe a tornado warning will be issued for these locations as well. And we're monitoring this other cell right now that is moving towards the north and east of Whitney, Texas. This has shown signs of decline in terms of the overall structure. You can kind of see this thing isn't as well defined as it was before. And I do believe we might be seeing a truly dominant cell begin to take place near Abit, Texas, to the east of Interstate 35. You can see that hook echo beginning to show up right here. And so this is going to be a real concern as we progress over the next couple of hours, because the storm is currently on its own and is only really going to have to deal with its own environment, at least for the next several hours, assuming other cells don't form out ahead of it. So this is going to be something to monitor very closely as we progress through about the next couple of hours. So we continue to monitor the threat for that severe weather to increase throughout the remainder of today. Of course, we do have a few ongoing severe storms right now. First of all, we do have that one tornado warning near Durant, Oklahoma, and currently that is moving off towards the north and east with time. So currently looking at the TLX radar from my phone, the circulation is very broad in this area, not very well organized. So that is good news there. We are also monitoring these pair of cells right now in southern Texas. Particularly, I'm monitoring this storm near Abit, just to the south of Bynum and east of Interstate 35. And of course, this one to the west of Interstate 35, to the north and west, or north and east of Whitney, Texas. The circulation on the Whitney, Texas cell is not particularly impressive. There might be something trying to spin up there. That would be on the back end, though, so not really watching that. But the Abit, Texas one definitely has my interest. It's one that is on its own for the moment. No other competing storms to deal with. And so we are kind of seeing some signs of a mesocyclone beginning to take shape. And this one might go on to produce a tornado over the next couple of hours. Certainly, its hail threat has increased. We can actually take a look here. And in fact, there we go. New tornado warning on this cell. So this is now the cell near Abit, Texas. New tornado warning. So the tornado warning polygon includes Abit, Bynum, Malone, Mertens, Milford, Italy, Blooming Grove up towards the Interstate 35 corridor and towards Bardwell. So that is the areas infected in this new tornado warning as well. And this warning goes until 4:30 Eastern time, moving northeast at a blazing 60 miles per hour. Maximum hail size expected over 1 inch. So new tornado warning on that cell as well. So we're monitoring these two cells in kind of close proximity to each other. Again, kind of splitting the difference between Interstate 35 at this particular point. So I recommend no travel on 35, 35 West or 35 East at this particular point. Again, the circulation with this cell, not particularly the best, not our strongest circulation. But checking the gate-to-gate shear products, you can definitely see that it is trying to get better organized there. And so this is going to be something to monitor very closely. Got that classic hook echo that is trying to develop. And if we actually kind of look at a more non-smoothed out product, you can definitely see that hook echo taking shape there. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor very closely. And of course, we're going to also watch this storm that is kind of splitting the difference between Interstate 35 and 35 West here. So we continue to monitor the threat for severe storms today across portions of Tornado Alley and the south. And right now we have 2 tornado warnings across portions of Texas, very close proximity to each other. We've got the storm near Bynum and Aubit, and we've got the storm to the north and east of Whitney, Texas. Both of them capable of producing tornadoes at the moment. Looking at the velocity products here, the storm right now near 35 west is not particularly impressive. It does have a little bit of a mesocyclone aloft, but not a significant storm right now. And this particular storm right near Bynum, Texas, this is also capable of producing a tornado. And as of this particular point, this will be moving off towards the north and east, very close to Malone, Mertens, and Blooming Grove. But this polygon includes also Milford and Italy up towards Bardwell as well. So this will be something to monitor over the next couple of hours. Of course, we do have a hook echo on this storm as well. You can see very clearly that we have a hook echo, and we're starting to get more of this gradient here, this reflectivity gradient that is associated with these severe storms. You can kind of see the highest reflectivity is kind of to the north of that hook echo, and that's exactly what we look for in developing supercell tornadoes. And so this is going to be something very closely monitored over the next couple of hours. Besides that, though, we have a few other cells that we need to keep our eye on. We have cells out towards the west near Dallas-Fort Worth, kind of linear in nature at this point, and we have storms out near Waco to the south and east of Waco and out towards Canton. These are going to also have to be monitored for the potential for tornadoes here as well. And then, of course, we've got kind of a almost near developing supercell thunderstorm threat right now towards Greenville. This is associated along a line of storms, but maybe the potential for some rotation right near Farmersville as well. So I think the greatest threats right now are going to be these 2 supercell storms right now to the south. These are all south of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but these are moving into more populated areas over about the next 2 hours. So this will be something to monitor for those folks there as well. But of course, right now, we have not seen any indications of tornadoes on the ground. In fact, looking at the correlation coefficient values, not really seeing anything on this storm near Bynum, but it is developing that classic hook echo structure. And so the velocity products here do indicate the potential for some broad circulation, but nothing substantial at this particular point. Definitely a very strong mesocyclone, though. And so this might be one of the first signs that we kind of look for. And this might indicate that the storm is definitely undergoing an intensification phase at the moment. That extends up pretty far as well. So this could definitely be a tornado threat as we go throughout about the next half hour or so. We also have a new severe thunderstorm warning now. This actually includes portions actually towards the radar site, and this actually includes the Fort Worth area towards Arlington, Mansfield, Claiborne as well. This is for a line of storms, not necessarily a tornado threat, but this is a line of storms capable of producing damaging winds and large hail. Looking at the velocity products, we can see here that we are getting about 56 miles per hour there at about a couple hundred feet, 60 miles per hour there, 54 miles per hour there, and about 30 miles per hour there. So we are looking at the potential for some pretty strong winds that will be heading towards the Everman, Mansfield, towards Benbrook over the next couple of minutes here. And so this could produce large hail and gusty winds with those storms. Watching 2 tornadic supercells right now in Texas as well. The potential for both of these to produce tornadoes. So far, though, we have not seen anyone that has a clear standout chance, but I would have to say that probably the better chance belongs to the southern cell right now to the south and east of Hillsboro, Texas, moving off towards the north and east, towards Mertens, towards Frost, and